Bill Gates' Microsoft is now threatening to disable the computers of users who share so-called misinformation online, as Bill Gates and the WEF continue gearing up for the 2024 election season in the only way they know how, by working on an authoritarian plan to censor all opposition, criminalize so-called misinformation, steal the US election, and install puppet governments in penetrated liberal democracies all around the world. The elites know the people are rising up against them, and like cornered rats, they're now desperate to silence the opposition and crush any dissent against their totalitarian vision of a new world order. For those who are paying attention, this dystopian vision is playing out in front of our very eyes, and it's our responsibility to stop these tyrants in their tracks. Before we dive in, subscribe to the People's Voice Rumble channel and join our locals community. To support the channel, join our incredible community and gain access to exclusive and uncensored content. Bill Gates understands better than most of the elite that the people are not going to be satisfied with prison time for his crimes against humanity. And the Microsoft founder has become increasingly bullish about eliminating freedom of speech on the internet.
Well, the misinformation about vaccines and associating certain people like myself or Fauci having malign intent with vaccines, that was most acute in the United States.
But that hasn't stopped Gates traveling the world on his private jet and complaining about misinformation to anybody who'll listen. Here he is in Australia, where he told the state-funded ABC that he was working with tech platforms to eradicate social media users who speak out against his agenda.
A virulent conspiracy theory emerged during the pandemic that you were using vaccines, using the vaccine rollout to control people, even to the extent of people claiming you wanted to insert chips inside them. Now, a lot of those ideas were spread by tech companies, by platforms owned by tech companies. Did you ever complain to them about those debates going on unchecked?
Yeah, I mean, I think every time the question's asked, it helps spread the rumor. So, maybe I should complain even more. But I certainly point out false stories when they're published, or even people who highlight sort of almost silly misinformation.
But did you talk to the tech companies about how those debates were being carried out?
Yeah, there's a constant dialogue of anybody who gets, this crazy stuff published, of going to the digital platforms and saying, hey, look at this, look at that.
Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella told NBC's Lester Holt this week that people sharing misinformation should not be protected by freedom of speech laws. In his opinion, the world needs a new Geneva Convention to deal with anybody who dares to share information that exposes the global elite. That's right. The Microsoft CEO is comparing free speech on the internet with the international law that regulates armed conflict. Listen carefully to his words. The Microsoft CEO actually admits that this is part of the elite's vision of a new world order.
When you have an adversary who is a nation state or a country that is, got institutional sort of, strength, or organizations that are both well-resourced and are relentless in attacking, I'm glad that we have the capability we have to even detect what they're doing. I really, really hope, whether it's the US, it's about Russia or China in particular, these are the three powers who need to come together and really settle on some Geneva Convention. Because if this is about two nation states attacking each other, and especially civilian targets, then we are in a very new world order. And it's a breakdown of world order, which I think we've not seen before.
Bill Gates and his cronies are not just talking about clamping down on free speech. As we speak, they're quietly, deceitfully putting the dominoes in place to completely obliterate the legal rights of ordinary people to dissent against their evil agenda. After this quick break, we'll expose in forensic detail every legal move the global elite are making to clamp down on dissent and imprison people for sharing so-called misinformation. This is highly important information that must be spread around the world before it's too late. But first, an important message from our sponsor. Are you interested in reaching a large and growing audience? The People's Voice offers a unique opportunity to promote your brand to an audience of millions of engaged viewers. If you would like to sponsor or advertise on our show, please email sponsor@thepeoplesvoice.tv. Welcome to the UK, where it's now official government policy that independent news and ordinary social media users can't publish misinformation. But The Guardian, the BBC, Disney and Netflix can. Yes, it's true. The recently signed Online Safety Act brands the publication of false information a criminal offence, punishable by up to a year in prison, unless you're a mainstream media outlet, in which case it's totally legal. If you think even the corrupt and bloated global elite that rules over us would never dare be that blatant, take a look at Section 179, making it illegal to publish false information with intent to cause harm. And that's without even getting into Ofcom's Select Committee, or how they choose to define misinformation. Hint, it's anything that Bill Gates and the global elite disagree with, and especially anything that exposes their agenda. Welcome to the modern definition of freedom of speech, where the mainstream media are directly and explicitly permitted to knowingly publish false information with intent to cause non-trivial harm, while the independent media and people like you can be sent to jail for a year for calling out their lies. It's not just the UK, the elite are tightening the screws in the US too. The big tech Senate hearing started last week, and social media executives are already throwing their support behind the new Kids Online Safety Act. With the European Union's own Digital Services Act coming into force in Europe later this month, and all the focus on misinformation and disinformation at the WF's Davos Summit in January, we can see that the long-promised crackdown on internet free speech across the whole world is about to kick into gear. We are living in disturbing times. As those who've survived the mass formation psychosis and seen through the psyops, it's no exaggeration to say that the future of humanity now depends on the decisions we make from this moment forward. After all, we can't say that we weren't warned about their authoritarian dreams.
But you don't have a choice. People act like you have a choice. People don't feel like going to the stadium when they might get infected. You know, it's not the government who's saying, okay, just ignore this disease. And, you know, people are deeply affected. For the world at large, normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population.
Here at The People's Voice, we are determined to continue exposing the crimes of the elites, but we need your help. Subscribe to the channel, spread this video far and wide to wake as many people up as possible, and join the TPV Locals community for exclusive and uncensored content. I hope to see you there.